Hello, this is Ian Noel Camalotis for Centertainment Media, and this is Chatterbox. So I'm here with the band Knights of the Round. They're a heavy metal band that performs covers of Final Fantasy video game music. So could you guys each introduce yourselves? Start over here.
Kevin, I play drums.
Justin, I play guitar.
Justin, I also play guitar.
My name's Adam, and I play bass.
So what got you guys into, out of all the music genres, heavy metal music?
I guess I'll take that. So we've pretty much all been playing metal throughout pretty much our entire musical kind of careers, I guess. We've been playing it since we were teenagers, I believe. We played locally in different bands, in different like metal bands, and we've all had relatively successful local, regional, and national bands. And once those kind of faded away, we all got together and decided to give this thing a try.
Okay. Now, out of all the types of music in that you can center your heavy metal music around, what made you guys pick Final Fantasy?
Well, yeah. So as the main song writer arranger, I guess I'll answer that. So I've just had a profound fascination with the music from Final Fantasy since I guess when I first played Final Fantasy VII. I had gone back and listened to the soundtracks after a few years of playing Final Fantasy VII, and I was just instantly hit with that nostalgia factor. Like I've never been hit before from video game music. So it kind of made me appreciate the entire video game music scene, and I would then go and listen to other games that I would have played before, like the Street Fighters and Zeldas and Mario and all that stuff, and then really gain the appreciation for those soundtracks because I had the obsession with the Final Fantasy music. So in picking a game to kind of focus the band around, Final Fantasy was kind of the only choice because that kind of just made me appreciate video game music as a whole.
Okay.
So that's kind of why we decided to do Final Fantasy.
Okay. So for each one of you, this is actually a question specifically for each one of you. What got you into music as a passion? Let's start off over here.
Well, for me, I first heard Slipknot for the first time, and that basically got me into playing drums and like music in general. I heard them and I was just like, whoa, I want to do that. So basically that's all that was for me.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as I go, I mean, my dad played guitar and stuff, so I mean, I was exposed to music fairly early, so I was messing around with guitars and basses and stuff. But honestly, what really got me into playing, like after that, when I found like, oh, metal is definitely for me. I love the aggression, I love like the technicality of it and stuff. Bands like like Slipknot, Korn at the time, just bands like that kind of really got me going. And as my tastes evolved, I got into more heavier stuff. So like, I think that's what culminates into this, because we are very, very heavy, and like, I mean, that's just kind of the direction I went down as a guitar player, and yeah, I really enjoy playing metal. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's actually kind of a tough question for me because I don't have any sort of musical, musical ability in my family that I know of. Neither of my parents are musical. I actually kind of grew my interest in music. The first time I kind of knew that it was something I really wanted to do, or at least I was really interested in, was actually Mario Paint for the Super Nintendo, because it had the music maker on there, and just that was the first time I was really exposed to making drum beats and music and notes on a scale and all that, because of course I didn't pay attention to like music class in elementary school. So like Mario Paint was where I was first like, I want to do music. And then as I was growing up, like Justin said, the bands at the time, the Slipknot and Korns and Rage Against the Machine and stuff like that really just kind of really grabbed me, and then I started picking up a guitar, and then realized that it kind of came natural to me to play guitar. So I kind of just went from there, and
And for me, it was a little bit different because my sister can sing really beautifully. And so, like, growing up, my parents always made my sister sing at church, right? And, like, we were always in the choir and we were always doing all that stuff. So music was always in my home and it was always something that kind of happened, but I didn't really have any involvement with it until, like, the 8th grade. My cousins were in a terrible local garage band, and they were playing a talent show, and they needed somebody to play bass. So the day of the talent show, they asked me if I would play bass on their talent show, and that was all she wrote. Like, from that day out, I signed up for lessons, I bought equipment, like, it was just, that was it. And it was, both feet in the water since then.
So you guys have had different experiences in music that's got you in there.
Pretty much. Different paths, and we all just kind of like culminated into this. So it's really cool. And like Justin said earlier, like we played in bands like together locally, so we knew each other prior. Like we were friends already. So it just it just kind of made sense, and we appreciate each other's like musical talent and stuff. And it's just like, yeah, let's do this, So,
Okay.
So that's kind of how that came about a little bit. Yeah.
Now, going back to Final Fantasy itself, how many of the Final Fantasy games have you guys played? Do you play all of them? Have you played all of them? Or has it been more just like you played a couple, but the music was what drew you guys in? Because you were talking about how that was. How was it for everybody?
Me personally, I never got into JRPGs as a kid, just because it didn't strike me. But in my later years in gaming, like I'm definitely like more of a single player like type game. So I'm trying to play catch up and like. I'm hearing all these songs. I'm like, oh man, like I want to experience like what everybody else experiences when they play as part of the game, and I hear like that melody and feel that nostalgia, even though I never really played it as a kid. But yeah, I'm just trying to play catch up. And I definitely appreciate the music more than anything of those games.
Okay.
I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah. My first taste of Final Fantasy was from my dad. Actually, I used to watch him play Final Fantasy VII. So from there, I was just like. Became a gamer from that, honestly. So he started that all. Yeah.
Been a fan of that for a while then.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. 7 was my first as well. Exposure to that.
I could kind of tell
Yeah.
the name. And then
Yeah, so for me, 7 was definitely wasn't my first exposure to the series. My brother actually used to play some of the Final Fantasy 2 for the Super Nintendo, which of course is 4. Because he's 3 years older than me, so growing up, I used to kind of shadow like what he was doing in terms of playing games. He used to play a lot of sports games, so I'd play a lot of sports games, and then occasionally, yeah, he would we would like rent it from the video store or whatever, rent Final Fantasy 2 or 3, and like he kind of showed it to me a little bit, and then it didn't really click for me until I played the demo of Final Fantasy 7. I forgot what game that came with at the time, but there was a demo of Final Fantasy 7. It came with some game that SquareSoft put out, and from playing the demo, I was hooked, and then ended up buying Final Fantasy 7 when it came out, and then that was it from there. And then it was 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I went back play the earlier ones. I haven't finished too many of the Super Nintendo ones. I've gotten to the very end of 6, got to the very end of 4, got about halfway through 5. It is what it is. I'm not ashamed to say that, like, with me being the main songwriter in the band, the main arranger, that like I've not played through all the games. There are people out there with way more Final Fantasy experience than me, but like you had said earlier, I've listened to every soundtrack probably 100 times, and it's so yeah. It is what it is. Only so many hours in the day, and there's so many. As time goes on, more good video games come out that just kind of take priority. Exactly. And now that we're older and we have jobs and bills and stuff, we can only dedicate so much time to gaming. So, playing through, especially 4, 5, and 6 to completion is definitely on my list of games. But maybe one day, but not anytime soon.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and what I'll say is I have played every Final Fantasy game, including like the Dissidia ones and the mobile stuff. I've played all of it. I haven't finished most of them, but I'm a gamer who usually does not finish games that I start and doesn't get upset about it. Well, no, like I think that I
play games to finish them.
Yeah, so he plays games to finish them, but I enjoy being able to spend 12 hours in a game because I don't have much more time than that. So like, for example, Destiny 2, I didn't finish the campaign, but I absolutely love the game and have nothing bad to say about it, which is pretty uncommon in the Destiny universe. But I've played all the Final Fantasies. But the first one that like got its claws in me was Final Fantasy VII, because I played through the beginning to the end of that game in a room with my 4 best friends, and we would not start playing the game if everyone wasn't there. And every single night we would get together and play it. We would order pizza, like we would play through the game from beginning to end, and we played through that game from 0 to 100 as a group, and we got 100% on our first run, and that was in like the 8th grade. So like it cemented it in my brain. And the first thing I played when I bought an electric guitar to learn how to play the battle theme from Final Fantasy VII, and I didn't know that was a thing that other people did. So like here we are, right?
I mean, that's the one thing. Like for me, just you guys are all talking about 7, and it shows in the music you play. Mine was 8 actually, the first one.
I have a funny story about 8. But
Yeah. So I mean, so for me, that's where I got into it. I actually played a couple games like before, but they were like the non-canon, or well, you can't say Final Fantasy is canon, but it's like the Final Fantasy Legends for Game Boy. But then I got into 8, and it was like one of those. And I listening to that music now. I go, I can see how it lends itself to the type of music that you guys play in there.
It
But
does, yeah. Just the melodies alone, like they just scream for like lead guitars, and even some of like the rhythmic stuff. It's just like, wow, that could be. You put some distortion on a guitar and just like kind of change things a little bit to like make it metal. Like it's like a lot of the songs are easy to translate to metal. So
I was very surprised as I was arranging some of the songs on our last full length how little work I actually had to do on certain songs, where it's like, oh wow, these parts are already harmonized perfectly for guitars. It's a violin and a cello playing it, and it's like, okay, well, I'll play the cello part, you play the, and we just kind of figured it out from there. But yeah, like you were saying, a lot of the songs, more so than not, lend itself to playing metal, and you can just kind of have to, get creative with like the rhythmic parts of it. But in terms of the melodic stuff, yeah, a lot of it is kind of already written for us.
are there any songs that are difficult to like play or as a metal song, or don't just feel that it doesn't lend itself too well for metal music at all?
Absolutely. There's I probably have 30 songs that I'd started to arrange, and they're sitting in a folder on my desktop in my studio computer that will never see the light of day because they just didn't come out. We actually wrote a Final Fantasy 15 song when that game came out, and it just wasn't good enough. I feel like we were trying too hard to make it into a metal song, and it just ended up being like, okay, we tried. It's okay to like not release everything that we write because it just doesn't translate good enough, at least compared to the other songs. We do sort of try to set standards for what we put out.
Gotcha.
We don't like to put anything out that we wouldn't want to listen to and rock out to. So,
Which song was that, out of curiosity?
The Hammerhead theme.
Oh, okay.
Because like
when they,
later in the game, not spoiler alert, but when in the 10-year into the future part, when you go back, it's like a darkened version of the Hammerhead theme.
I remember.
And when I got to that point in the game, I was like, oh, that's it, I'm doing this song. Because I loved the feel of it, how it was darker, it wasn't as happy, it didn't have the keyboards and all that stuff, and the harmonica and everything else that was going on. And I like the feel of the darker version, so tried it. And it just didn't come out to something that we want to release. Maybe as a B-side someday.
Gotcha.
But
I think that it sounded good as a cool, dark guitar song, but it didn't. We had to do too much to it to make it a metal song.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And then there's a certain point where like we want to be respectful to the composition.
Yeah,
we don't want to go too far off the rails.
That was a learning process for me as because I've been arranging these songs for about 10 years now. As if we go too far off the rails and it loses the feel of the original song,
No longer.
it's not even a cover. And we do play, we've come to the realization that playing these cons and these video game festivals, that people do come for the Final Fantasy aspect more so than the metal, like the Night of the Round vibe that we give to it, and we're okay with that. We've come to accept that. So as we would never go out there and play an original song. because we know that nobody wants to hear that. At least not at some of these cons that we play.
Right. That's not why they came.
So we do like to put our flair into the songs, and we like our people to be able to hear Night of the Round songs and be like, oh, that's a Night of the Round song, but also realize all the source material and all the melodies and stuff like that. So it's a balance that we always have to kind of strive for, and that's part of what makes it fun for me as the main songwriter, is to find that balance and just, like I said earlier, come to the realization that not all songs are going to work.
Okay.
I will say one obstacle we did overcome in that situation. On our last full length, we did Gold Saucer, and if everybody knows that song, it's very happy melody, very major sounding. So to get around that, we were like, man, like these melodies are awesome. This feels great. Like, what can we do? Oh, let's just make it a minor key. And when we did that, it sounded like something we would do. So it's like we think of things like that sometimes, to where it's like, okay, this song is almost going to work. What can we do? Like, simple thing is a key change. Just simple key change will make the world of difference for us. And even if that doesn't work, then we just kind of table it and put it off to the side. We might come back to it, but most of the time, you know, like you said, we have a standard of what we want to release and what our songs should sound like. And we don't want to veer too far from that.
Okay. Do you guys have any specific favorite songs from that you guys play that you love playing the most?
Yeah, for me it's Crazy Motorcycle from FF7. That's just, I don't know, it's just fun to play. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very fast. He gets to show off on that. Yeah, it's like a show off. Yeah. So,
and it's kind of hard to decide now since we're playing newer stuff. If I have to think of like a older song, I'd say like our FF10 battle is really fun for me to play. As of late, though, on our next full length, we're going to have a Final Fantasy IV track, the End Battle. That is, like, I think we all agree, that's a very, very fun song to play. So, like, that's been my favorite lately.
Okay.
Yeah, End Battle, which is the Zeromus theme fight music. That's probably my favorite too. I think that's your favorite right now.
It's the most fun to play.
It's fun. I think the arrangement is actually great on it too. I'm really, really proud of that track.
I would say that's true. Final Fantasy IV End Battle from the new stuff is the most fun to play, but the one that is like my personal favorite is the Final Fantasy V X Death theme, and we played that today, and that's one of my favorites because I'm a big doom metal nerd. And there's the end of it, he specifically made it so that I could take a very doom metal approach to the bass line at the end of it. And it's very kind of like lurching and impending and scary. And the live performance, I mean, I had a friend who watched us today who hasn't seen us in a while say that it is so clear how much fun we have playing the new material because we lay into it so hard on stage. So I would say to anyone watching this or listening to this who has not yet seen us, you'll be able to tell which songs are our favorites apparently, which is not a bad thing, right? Like you should love the songs you play. So
Yeah, you have to. I mean, when you're playing music, you have to have a passion for it, especially the material. So one thing I wanted to ask, just a quick thing then for each one of you, what advice do you have for anyone that wants to get into the music career, like what you guys are doing, whether it's playing music as a whole, especially the instrument you're playing, or even getting into metal or even cover music? So if you guys each have any advice you wanted to...
For me, the way I learned was just trying to play to songs that were like, I say it again about Slipknot, like I learned by just trying to play their songs. So I mean, I guess I'd say just try playing one of your favorite band songs and see how you learn. You know, that's how I learned. So
Okay.
yeah.
And now you're a beast at drums, like years later. I mean, I piggyback off that. I mean, just like if you want to get into just learning an instrument, or it doesn't even matter what genre, it could be metal, rock, pop, whatever. Like, learn your favorite group's song. Like, even if it's the simplest thing, you know, get your feet wet. Other than that, I mean, just put in the work and, you know, don't give up on it. If you really want it, like, don't give up on it, because, I mean, if it's your passion, then, like, you should be out there doing what you love. Right. And I definitely do. So, I mean, I've been playing guitar and bass, I mean, since I was like 16. I'm 32 now. I put 16 years into playing music, and, like, I wouldn't have it any different. I just love it. There's no other, like, feeling when you're on stage and you just see the crowd react to like what you're producing to them, and it's just like it's a good adrenaline rush, and like I wouldn't trade that for the world. I love it. I love it so much. So just don't give up and just persevere, and that's really all I got. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess I'll kind of echo what they said in terms of trying to play along with other bands with like your favorite songs and stuff like that. Me growing up, I did not have people in my immediate area that were into the same kind of music that I was, that wanted to play music. So I spent probably the first 2 or 3 years of my guitar playing in my bedroom, playing along to the metal that I was into, the Rage Against the Machine and the Fear Factory and stuff like that. And that's how I got rhythmically tight, because I was playing along like day in and day out. I spent about 3 hours a day in my bedroom playing along to these songs. In terms of the persistence aspect, nowadays people have so many more tools available to them than when we were teenagers. You can program your own drums now relatively easily. You can record. You can have a home studio for under $500. There's like an insane amount of tools out there for people that want to do this, whether it's original music or cover music. So I guess my one piece of advice would just be to don't let your lack of musicians hold you back. Don't let the lack of musicians in your area, per se, hold you back, because you could at least at first do everything yourself, which a lot of people are intimidated by. But if you really want to do it, there's really nothing holding you back.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I guess my take on this, because I don't want to just, say the same thing the last three guys have said, is that, one thing I hear a lot of, especially in video game music, like there's a meme in video game music where like at any given video game con, you're going to hear the Mega Man 3 Dr. Wily song, or Mega Man 2 Dr. Wily theme 1 like 300 times throughout the course of the convention. And, like there's this kind of, there's this attitude now that first of all, now that social media makes musicians seem so much more available to fans and so much more personally connected, but also with the availability of tools, like all you need to make electronic music is a phone, right? Like you don't need anything more than that to do it. I have friends who do it on Game Boys, right? But there's this bad attitude that I don't like, that's like whatever you're doing, someone else has already done it. And I really can't stand that attitude, because I feel like it doesn't matter if somebody else has written a song that sounds like what you're doing, or it doesn't matter if you're trying to make house music and house music's been done to death 300 different ways. It doesn't matter. Like you have to get better at what you want to do. So don't be intimidated by the fact that someone out there does what you're doing better, or that someone doesn't see your input. Showing people what you do should be part of you making music, but it's also totally okay if you don't want to share that with people too. Like music can be a private pursuit. So I guess honestly, my real advice is just don't worry about it so much. Don't get inside your own head. Just have fun and don't worry about being judged before someone even sees your output. Don't be afraid to make it, because they can't like it if they can't hear it.
Alex, that's very true what he said. I just wanted to add that there's kind of two ways to go about it in that regard. If you are truly making music because you like making music, you should write music that you would want to listen to as a fan. That's how I go about it. But there are people out there that make music and perform music that they aren't necessarily into. They're doing it more so as a job or a gig that they're just, they may just enjoy getting up there and playing for larger crowds. So maybe they write music that are going to tailor to larger crowds. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. So there's kind of two ways to do it. You could write music that you want to really be passionate about and have more fun playing. Like for us, it's not a big secret that if we maybe tone down the heaviness, we would maybe have some more people at some of our shows. In terms of like the anime crowd, I mean, how many people really like as brutal of metal and as heavy of metal that we play? But to me, I arrange these songs because this is what I would want to hear, and the fact that other people get to enjoy that and are into it is awesome, and it kind of makes it a little bit more special when that happens. So, so you can go about it either way. I prefer. I'm glad that we do what we do and write music that is what we want to hear as fans.
Okay. So is there anything else you guys want to say in terms of like where people can find your music and everything like that?
Sure, yeah. We made it as easy as possible. Nightoftheround.com has a link right to our Bandcamp, which gives you links to all of our merch and our music. You could also find us on iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, all that stuff.
Okay.
An important note, our band name is Night of the Round, singular. So if you type it in, don't type in Knights because that's the name of the summon spell.
Yeah.
Type in Night.
Night, as in one night, as in singular.